What's going on, Pizza fam? Listen, before we get into the episode, I just wanted to make a quick shout out to Thrive POS. They've recently partnered with the podcast and they bring an exclusive offer for our listeners. Listen, Thrive POS is not just a POS system. It was built for operators just like us. It's fast, it's reliable, and most importantly, it helps us focus on what matters: our pizza, our people, and our profits. Check out the exclusive offer from Thrive POS at thrivepos.com/Pizza King, or just click the link in the description. Now let's get into the episode.
The end game may not be that you're going to get more customers coming through the pizzeria. The end game is that you're pushing yourself out as a brand, as a business person. If you've opened up one franchise or one pizzeria and you want to open up 10, and you've learned some lessons along the way, then you can share that. But also those lessons help you potentially maybe reach an audience of somebody that's an investor and comes in and says, I'd like to put some money behind you to go and expand that business, build you as a brand outside of the pizzeria business per se. It gives you a long-term path of, Tyrell is Mr. Pizza Man. You know, there's everything about marketing for those institutes, how to get clients in, not just using voucher codes and deals, but being creative around some of that marketing that you can share from that side.
All right, welcome back to Pizza King Podcast. I have Stuart Townsend on from Podcast Hawk. Stuart, thank you for joining us. Can you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks, Tyrell. Thanks for having me on the show as well. So I'll try and talk a little bit slower because I do tend to start talking very fast because I'm from the north of England and I get told off for going into my northern spiel. Yeah, so my background is I started life a reasonable amount of time ago selling steel, of all things, bizarrely. I was a steel salesman. And then decided I didn't really want to do that. And I ended up going part-time to university to get a degree so I could get a job in corporate. So I ended up being a student at Sun Microsystems when I was 30. So for anybody that's a little bit older, you'll know they were a Unix company and massive and brilliant company to work for. Migrated over to Oracle when they bought the company. And then I floated around. I was building some startup accelerators there. And I spent some time then at a couple of startups and built out the channel sales at Zendesk pre and post IPO. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, I decided to leave and venture into doing consulting and setting up my own software companies. I've been around a bit, I think, Tyrell. I think is the summary of that.
From steel to software to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I've got some scars.
You've definitely done it the hard way, my friend. What lessons, what would you say some of the most important lessons you learned along that journey? And we'll get into your company and what you guys are doing, but I'd like to know, just from my point of view, what's some of the most important lessons you've learned, you know, in making those huge.
I think the key thing for me was, or the irony is like, you know, I was quite young when I joined the steel firm. I was like 18 or so. And it sticks in my mind really well in terms of the managing director is a very old school company. So there's a big long table. MD was at the top end and the minions, depending on rankings, all went down. And he'd always said to me, he's like, no matter what happens in life, Stuart, no matter how high you go, you've got to look after everybody and do it sincerely, because on the way down, they're the people that are going to help you. They're going to help build your network out. They're going to help do stuff. And at the time, I was like, 18 years old thinking, what's a crock of what's going on? It's like, I don't, But in good stead, the key lesson from that is exactly that. It's like literally as I've moved around different companies and different skill sets, it's been helping people along the ways and paid forward and helped me when I got to that time where I've needed help. That's there's lots of things, but for me, that's the main thing I take away from that component, that initial sort of statement from a chap 30 odd years ago, maybe a bit longer.
I love that. One of my mentors always said, and he's always taught us, and he's always, he's still to this day always says that all business is people business. And when you take care of people, when you look out for people, people will return the favor and look out for you and take care of you and help you when you need help or support you when you need support. So, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that's, at its core what all of our businesses are about.
Yeah, most definitely. And, over time I've sort of gone into this mode of channel sales and such. And that's basically just owning relationships. Like say, developing those relationships from that. Everything else doesn't really matter, does it? We all remember the people that looked after us.
Exactly. And now you kind of have the ultimate position where you get to connect people who normally wouldn't have that opportunity or wouldn't be in a space to pursue these types of connections with Podcast Hawk.
Yeah, exactly. And that sort of, this is going to sound a bit weird, Tyrell. So I set Podcast Hawk up with my co-founder, Ray, who lives in Mexico. I live in England. Me and Ray have never actually met in person. So we're thousands of miles away. We're in this group called Dynamite Circle, and we've known each other through that for a long time, but we've never physically been in the same room.
Same place.
Yeah.
Wow.
How many people can you say set up a business with some random stranger? And and that's
you may be the first person that I've ever come across.
But it was the sort of mantra of, we both wanted to get on podcasts to spread the message and our knowledge and sort of meet people, but we're coming at it from different ways. I was coming at it from more from a data side, because that's sort of my background is about big data and that type of thing. He was coming from, he had a language company and he wanted to promote that business. And then we met and became friends and decided to solve this problem together of how can you actually get on the right podcast and how do you reach people? Yeah. So we built it and then shared it out, and one of the first to market of, it's a simple platform. You can find, we've had people come on using the platform to find podcasts about fly fishing or Canadian government podcasts, or some of the searches are great, but it is, the key element is it's about joining those people together and letting them develop that relationship.
So say someone, person has whatever skill set or expertise, and their goal is to, hey, I want to go talk about my service, talk about my product, talk about my brand on a podcast. They come onto your platform and just search with very general terms and say, hey, what's out there? And to your point, fly fishing, and you'll connect them with a podcast host or a booking agent to help them get on the show.
So without promoting the business, but I am promoting the business, it's essentially that. Yeah. So there's two services. There's a service where, as a user, you do software as a service. So you go and look for all those podcasts, and we've got millions index and such. And you can find them by the interview style, etc. So it narrows that data. And that was a problem that me and Ray had. We would both spend lots of time finding podcasts and then going, they haven't had a show for 2 years. I've just spent this afternoon building all these 100 podcasts, and it's like, they haven't even had a show. Oh, God. So we're trying to take that pain away. And then what we got from feedback was, people said, that's great, but I haven't got the time to do that, or I haven't got the time to follow through and do the booking process as well and answer all the questions. So then we just built this sort of agency service on top of, we can do all that for you as well. It was quite funny. We were like, everybody will want to use this because it's just that simple. And the amount of pushback we got of, yeah, it is that simple, but I ain't got the time to fill all those emails in and follow up and provide the answers to the questions and do the media kit. And it's like, really? It's not that hard, is it? So we've done both components around it.
Yeah, well, I think there's, I think what happens behind the scenes is folks don't understand that both sides are trying to determine if it's a good fit, right?
Exactly.
If this is going to be something that the audience wants to hear, or do I even understand what you're bringing to the table?
Yeah, we're always clear with clients on both sides. The key thing in any of this is, I always so when I joined Sun, I live in North England and the job was in the south of England. So I'd get up at 4:30 on a Monday morning and have to drive for like 3 or 4 hours to get to the office and stay there for the week. That's how I got into podcasting. So Pat Flynn is one of our advisors, and it's Pat Flynn that I used to listen to when he just started and he was still, getting his audience going. And I always take it this way of, if there's moments when I pulled off the motorway, I pulled to one side because it's like, I need to write this down because that nugget of information was like gold. And we always say that to people is, you need to think, it's not about you and me, Tyrell. We're, in the grand scheme of things, we're irrelevant. We're bringing this together, aren't we? It's about what can your audience take away from it? If there's one bit of nugget that made them stop that car, that's it. And that's what we say. If you're a guest and you want to go on a podcast and you can't add value like that, just don't go, because you're wasting everybody's time. There's an audience there that, sorry, but
no,
I'm too passionate.
I agree.
I could go on for ages.
Go because I agree 100%, because I think the audience and the value that they take away becomes the most important. It's what can you gain? And I, got into podcasting because I listened to a podcaster and I love the way that his messages were coming across. And we had a conversation and he goes, you should podcast. And I'm like, I can't podcast. I don't have anything to talk about. And once I started, I had a few, lessons or a few things that I was teaching, that I built out through an email course, and we decided to run it as a podcast. But once I got through those 20 things, I didn't have anything left to talk about and I needed guests. And as a podcaster, I was nervous, and I actually just had this conversation last week. Another mentor, he asked me, "Hills, have you been reaching out and sending emails to book guests?" I'm like, "No, I have not." He goes, "Why?" I'm like, "Because I don't want anybody to tell me no. I don't want to ruin a relationship or ruin my perception of a person because they didn't want to come play in my playground." And it, just, I guess there's nervousness on my side too. It's like, hey, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to present myself. I've never actually met this person. He goes, "Well, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I just wait until I meet them in person and then I ask them if they want to be on the podcast." He goes, that's going to take you forever. You got to start reaching out, or you got to have some kind of a system. And I think, platforms like Podcast Hawk helps solve the problem for podcasters as well, because we don't always have the time or the expertise or the know-how, or even, the ability to overcome the fear of reaching out to folks coldly to say, "Do you want to come tell your story on my podcast?"
And it's that breadth as well, into its aspect of, if you look at podcasts and look at entrepreneurship or business, there's such a variation in that of podcast range where it's like, it's an entrepreneurship podcast, but it's focused on the Florida Keys type of thing. It's like, oh, well, actually, I don't want to waste the time of going on that podcast because I'm not in the Florida Keys. So it helps sort of broker that component. But like I say, bringing it together, the audience that's listening and tuning in and spending that valuable time go away going, "Great, I'm coming back next week or in 2 weeks' time to listen to the next one," because those guests that come on are just varied and bringing value.
I love it. What are some of the mistakes that the guests or the folks, the clients that you work with make when they're trying to get booked before you had this service? What were some of the biggest mistakes they were making?
It's a classic. I shouldn't laugh, but I've already sort of said what it is. People think that because you're a host and you've got a podcast, that they have a right to be on your show. I'm Stuart. I worked at this company. I have a right to be on there. I'm Stuart. I'm boring as sin. It's like, I have no story. It's been, when we were just doing the SaaS type service, people would go on and go, "I can't find any podcasts. I'm not getting booked." So I'd go and log in and look at what they were sending. And it's a little bit, you'll get this, Tyrell, you'll get messages from PR agencies and it's like one sentence. "I've got my client called Stuart. He should be on your podcast." Like, really? You don't care about me at all?
Just ignore them.
Yeah, exactly. It's delete, isn't it? It's delete. And it's the same, I built a whole sort of course and content and ebooks, and all it talks about is, again, what we talked about, that story of, you're not going to get on Joe Rogan, so set that expectation right, and you've got to go with knowledge and value for that end consumer that's of interest, that either heard or not heard before, that they're bringing something to the party. And you've got to articulate that really well. And it becomes an educational aspect with either the agency or whatever of, you're just not a fit. Your niche is too small. It's fly fishing, but in Lancashire, it's too small a segment of that. What I do love about the client side stuff, because I do the onboarding, is people don't realize they have stories to tell. So you're sort of having that conversation like we are now, very sort of chatty and informal. And it's like, and they drop in going, "Oh yeah, when I left school at 18, my first job was in China." "What?" "Yeah, I lived in China for 4 years. I can speak Mandarin." And I'm like, you do realize that that's like not normal.
Yeah.
And it's quite an interesting point.
Very unique story. Yeah. Tell that.
And it's like, oh, so yeah, you went to China and then you did this and then you set up a company doing that. And you've worked in a company that's you've got loads. So sometimes it's that helping draw out of people actually what the pieces are that they can go and tell that story. And what, unlike asking me, what was the lessons you learned through life and that experience that you can share so that other people don't make those mistakes, or go and follow a different path, or give them inspiration to go and live in China and work there. Or, at 18, I worked in a garage and then I worked at a steel firm. This guy rocked up, left uni and went to China. Yeah, different paths. So.
How does your agency help the guests bring those stories out and present it in a way that is consumable? Running a pizza shop is not easy. You're juggling orders, staff, and everything in between. That's exactly why I teamed up with Thrive POS. They're a company that built their POS system for pizzeria operators who live this every single day. I've worked with their team before, and I've seen firsthand how focused they are on making tech that actually fix our workflow. It's not the other way around. So if you're ready to simplify your operations, streamline your online orders, and get better control of your shop, this is the move. Head on over to thrivepos.com/Pizza King to see exactly what they're doing for operators all across the country. Again, that's thrivepos.com/Pizza King and get the exclusive offer. Now let's get back to the episode.
So we've only just started this now, so they're not live yet. But when we bring clients on board, we interview them as a podcast. The onboarding,
kind of a trial run.
Yeah. So it's like, here's your first podcast. Away you go. And we've just switched to this model. So it's basically some of the administration type stuff we don't obviously ask on there, but we use it as a training and see how comfortable they are. Naturally bring out those stories and those conversation pieces. So again, they get more comfortable thinking, actually, that's quite an interesting piece. So one of our clients, I can never say it, Kilimanjaro, I think I said it correctly. They've been up there. I'm like, yeah, I think that's quite an interesting story, like adversity, climbing up a mountain. I climb up the hill and I'm out of breath from that side.
Me too.
Yeah. So it's that component. I think it's just, drawing out and pulling out those interesting pieces of people's life. And I love it because it's like so diverse of like, really? You've done that? Oh my God, that's amazing. Good
Do you ever, I mean, that is really cool because you have a unique perspective because you get to learn about so many different types of people and their stories fantastic. And those things. And I think most people are probably naturally, nervous about promoting themselves or selling themselves or going there. But this is a great way to generate leads and generate clients if you're in that type of situation because you can connect on a deeper level.
Definitely. I think, and again, as English people, we tend not to be self-promoting in a sense. Mm-hmm. And you have to draw that out a little bit harder. And sometimes it's like, really, don't be embarrassed by it. It's like, you've got a skill set, you've got knowledge, you've done that. Just be happy to share that type of thing from it. And sometimes people feel a bit awkward, but it is, it's that, it's a beneficial aspect to both parties, isn't it? The host gets to meet somebody else, brings on a guest that's interesting, the audience learns something, but also it may be that actually I know some other people that would be interesting to come as a guest. And so it becomes like what it should be is a partnership and a relationship around that side. And we have to explain that to people. That's what it is. It's that you're not just going on that show and then bugger off. It's like you're going on that show and you're committed also to promote that out to your network and find other people, help that host out, get some interesting people on there because you've got a network. So again, we're, I wouldn't say unique, but we screen clients because that's the clients that we're looking for. If they're not willing to commit to do that, it's like, well, don't work with us.
Yeah. And I think it should be mutually beneficial, right? Obviously, podcasters have the platform and the audience, but when there's cross promotion and when there's collaboration, it helps everyone's audience,
exactly.
grow and learn and benefit or get value from those stories. So I like that you guys are pulling that out of folks.
I always say to guests as well, what you've got to think is, so for me, this is like, I don't know, say 30, 40 minutes of my time, and I'm going to go and have my tea and put my feet up and that sort of thing. For you, Tyrell, you may record 4 or 5 a day, and then suddenly there's editing time, there's top and tail, and it's putting all that piece, it's promoting it. It is not 30 minutes of your life.
Right.
There's a lot more as a host that goes behind it.
I wish I could do it in 30 minutes.
So as a guest, we also say you have to respect that aspect that this person is committing to doing that. Sometimes they're doing it as a full-time job. Sometimes they're just doing it because they're passionate. So you've got to turn up, be prepared, and share the love. Because again, like I say, if you're not going to do that, it's not fair. It's not the place to be around that. Because, again, it's an aspect of sharing that audience insights as well. It widens out your audience insights because that guest spreads it out, and those guests come along and their audience go, oh, right, I'll start listening to that. But actually, I want to go on that show as well. I think I could talk about accounting in the Netherlands or wherever it may be. Yeah, there's that aspect.
I love that. As a podcaster, at least from my role, I feel responsible for helping to tell the story the right way, through the editing process, through the promotion, through having a quick turnaround and having the social media, functions and all those things matter, those social media assets put together. I think it all matters because if you trusted me to come on and tell your story or show your product or any of those things, I feel responsible for helping you to the best of my ability, promote it. Let's do it the best that we can. I don't take that responsibility lightly. So I think I think it's great when you have guests that understand coming into it, like, hey, let's do this together. Let's make this as the best possible product we can. And not everyone does that. Some folks, I've had guests that come on and then you just never hear from them again. But others, I like to establish relationships. Like, I love the folks that say, hey, when can I come back? Can I?
Yeah.
How soon is too soon to book a second episode? I'm like, dude, let's do it.
I've done a couple of podcasts where I've done a couple of episodes because we've just gone totally left field talking about random stuff, and it's been really great from that. And yeah, like you say, it's having those ongoing relationships from it, and just a random conversation. Like, oh, actually, I think you should go on this podcast. Go and speak to Tyrell. It helps you out, but also it helps out the guest as well, doesn't it? It's like, oh, I don't have to think then. And it's the same for businesses, isn't it? Like I say, I've been in that relationship business for better part of this century. As I said on a meeting a couple of hours ago, it's about businesses now have to work hard at owning that relationship and developing that relationship and working on that relationship with the customers, no matter what they're doing, and not putting these goddamn walls in front of we don't want to talk to a customer. It's like, no, you want to speak to a customer as much as possible.
Yeah.
Really, honestly.
They pay our bills. So let's talk to them.
Yeah. And it's that aspect as well of, a lot of clients then sort of say, well, I'd like to do a podcast. It's like, well, great, but why don't you be a guest first and understand the complexities of it, and then look at setting up your B2B podcast and using it as driving leads and that's great. But if you've never done a podcast before, it's hard. And speaking to hosts, and they start to understand of actually there's a lot of editing time. There's a lot of time going into this. It can be it's not a 5-minute job.
Right.
Yeah. I'll stay away for that for a while then.
Have you, it was actually kind of part of my next question was, have you found someone whose story was so unique or their field was so niche that you couldn't really place them in the right category or with the right podcast? So the next logical step was to start your own, get your own message out?
Yeah. So Canadian government, there's a lady that wanted to reach out to the Canadian government. I can't remember how it works now, but basically in the UK, they're called councils. I can't remember in the Canadian government what it was, but it's so particular that the podcasts around it were really niche. I was like, there is no point. I'll give you access to the platform for free because I reckon there's about 25 podcasts about that if you're lucky. And I said to her, I said, you're so knowledgeable about this and about why don't you do that and then go and get the people that from the government departments to come on and talk about what the issues and problems are. And, it brokers that relationship then with the end consumer because it's like, oh, there's somebody from government coming to talk about this. Because, we pay our taxes and we're all sort of aware of stuff, but we don't know what happens behind in governmental departments, why the roads don't get fixed or the bin men don't come from that side. So, yeah, there have been a couple like that aspects.
I would listen to that podcast.
Yeah, it was one of those of like, it was a while ago now, but it was like, I should go and follow up and see if she did it because it would have been perfect, literally. And she would have had a massive, not necessarily a massive audience, but a massive influx of people to get started and promote it, then she would get a large audience because she can just promote it out to the government departments and they can all listen to it. And then they all want to come on as guests and then they promote it out. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy from that side.
So we work mostly with pizzeria operators, owners and operators. How would someone with a local business use podcasts as a way to come on and promote what they do and who they are?
Hey, I'm Arnold Baxter with Rooftop Innovations. We're a full-service residential and commercial roofing company proudly serving Houston, Magnolia, Tomball, Cypress, Spring, the Woodlands, and the surrounding areas. We specialize in roof replacements, roof repairs, storm damage restoration, insurance claim assistance, and commercial flat and metal roofing systems. Our core values are integrity, clear communication, quality craftsmanship, and accountability. We believe in doing it right the first time and standing behind our work. You can learn more and schedule an inspection at www.rooftopinnovations.com.
So them setting up their own podcast or them coming on to be a guest on other podcasts?
Yeah, I would say, as guests, how can they use guesting as a way to reach new customers?
Yeah, that's perfect. So they could come on. For me, it'd be about, they could target sort of localized podcasts. Again, it depends. So I'm gonna use the term franchise and dominoes type of thing because I can fit that in my head. Put that in my head. But anybody that set up a pizzeria or any business can come on and talk about the challenges of doing that, the entrepreneurship behind it. What I say anyway, the end game may not be that you're going to get more customers coming through the pizzeria. The end game is that you're pushing yourself out as a brand, as a business person. Because if you've opened up one franchise or one pizzeria and you want to open up 10, and you've learned some lessons along the way, then you can share that. But also those lessons help you potentially maybe reach an audience of somebody that's an investor and comes in and says, I'd like to put some money behind you to go and expand that business. If you're doing some creative marketing, again, that can be shared around that. So it builds you as a brand outside of the pizzeria business per se. So it gives you a long-term path of, Tyrell is Mr. Pizza Man. There's everything about marketing for those institutes, how to get clients in, not just using voucher codes and deals, but being creative around some of that marketing that you can share from that side.
I love it. And it gives them the opportunity to kind of come from behind the counter, come out of the kitchen and show us that you're a person in the community, even if it's a podcast that's, something that's national or global, you still have something, and there's something to be proud of that you can share on your own and say, hey, look, we introduce our little franchise to the world. That's how proud we are of it. And our customers help make that happen. I think there's a lot of different ways to tell that story.
Yeah, because you see a lot on TikTok and Reels and all that of pizza places where literally the pizzas are sold out before they've even been made.
Yes.
And I'm like looking at it, drooling, going, oh my God, that looks like the best pizza ever. Oh my God. But it's like, you can tell the story of, is it the recipe? Is it how you've done that? How did you build up that business? How did you get that voice out? There's so much that could be told around that then positions you, like you say, from out behind the counter forward and sharing that other pizzerias, but also just general business can use as well. If you've been so creative on your marketing, that can transfer to any retail service sector, whether it's a pizzeria, hairdressers, fashion, whatever it is. It's about what you did to get the customers through the door and bring them back consistently into it. That's all what we all want. If we can do that easily and it's not as less stress, then you can concentrate on the business then, can't you? You can be passionate about making that food the best it ever is, ever, and not have to worry about, oh my God, we've only sold one pizza tonight. What do we do? It's like, it's the best pizza ever, but nobody knows about it. Yeah.
I love it. And I agree 100%. Another thing that we love to talk about here is just, the importance of developing leaders, investing in people. And I know that you yourself have some background in, startup and scale and, how important those things are in that regard. Can you share just some of your philosophies and your thoughts on just leadership development in general?
It's funny. We were talking about this yesterday. So I help out a school that helps young people with learning difficulties. I don't know what it'd be termed in the US, but they have this thing called a statement or an EHCP. So they could have autism, ADHD, various things, so they can't learn in mainstream. So we were sat in a meeting yesterday with the management team, and the key for that, and I suppose it was, trying to sort of say it politely, was, in a lot of businesses, you have, in corporate particularly anyway, you have one-to-ones and appraisals, and they're all a bit stressful, etc. And I was saying to this particular business, you need to ask your staff, what is their career path? Do they want to go to a leadership position? And if so, why? And what did they bring to the table around that? Because if you're not asking those questions, you don't know who the next leaders are. And if you haven't got that plan for the company of going, in 5 years' time, I don't want to be behind the counter, I want to be doing this. It's like, well, who's the leadership that's going to take over? I don't know. Well, have you asked your staff who they want to be? And then you put in that personal development and that training to get them to that stage they want to be and support them along the way. And some may not make it because they find it's too hard, and that's fine. You've tried.
It's not for everybody. Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you've gone down that path. When I was running my channel team at Zendesk, you're managing a number, you're managing sales, and you're managing people. Literally all those two together is just like a car crash, because it's like people make up numbers, and you've still got a quota to hit. But it's about that leadership of how you manage that team to get the best out of them and have that open conversation around it. And it is like, with any operator, whether they've got 1 staff, 5 staff, or 100 staff, who are those leaders, identifying them and support them. And like I say, some will drop off, but that's nothing to be embarrassed about. If you didn't make it, great. You tried. That's the key thing.
Yeah. And the conversation was had, and what happens after that is just the natural evolution of things.
Exactly. Yeah. And people then feel, as part of that organization, more affiliated to stick with that brand per se, or that business, and stay there longer than those that just go, yeah, whatever, just, in and out the door. You're just wasting money on recruiting staff, training them, and then they disappear off after 3 months. It's like, well, what was the cost of sorry, it's a horrible term. It's a SaaS term. What was the cost of hiring that person and training them? And we used to see this in the contact center. People would come in and you'd hire and train people, and then they'd leave after 6 to 9 months because they're bored. You're not recuperating those training costs or those investment costs in that time. It's too soon.
Yeah, it's the same in hospitality and the restaurant business. Yeah. I think we've estimated the cost of replacing an hourly team member right around $6,000.
Wow!
So it's significant, and turnover is very high. So we always try to promote to, let's train and develop people internally, because the cost of replacing them is potentially enough to put someone out of business.
Yeah.
If you're not managing that correctly. So just in the lost production alone, it's significant.
Yeah. And it's that intangible cost, in a sense, if you can monitor it. But, how many customers did you lose as well? Because they came in, they like dealing with Bob, and they've chatted to Bob, or actually they came in, they can't get served, and they've had to wait half an hour. Yeah. It's tangible but intangible, that side of things.
It's the cost that you can feel, but you can't see it, but you can feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wholeheartedly understand that. Through this platform, I assume that you guys have helped some businesses really turn a corner too, when it comes to putting a product out there or generating leads. You have, what's one of your favorite success stories?
Ironically, it's somebody that didn't want to go on podcasts for, bizarrely. We were talking to them. They wanted to come onto the platform and start promoting, reaching out to podcast hosts to be part of their membership organization and such, like a sort of network. I'm having this conversation going, we weren't really set up for that. And he's like, well, I'll give this guesting thing a go then. I'm not really into it, whatever. Did that for a while, then went on to create his own podcast, because he was like, oh, I really quite enjoy this, and I want to be on the other side. Because then he got it. It was like, right, okay, I can bring these people on, whether the podcast hosts or whoever they are, and then get them to come into a membership training organization from there. I think when I checked in with him, I think he's on 1,200 episodes now. And I was like, I'm sure, I need to double check. I know it was over 1,000. I was like,
that's incredible.
Wow. That was just, and it was one of the first sort of people that came on to use the platform and onboarding and testing. It was like, yeah. So we've got, some good case studies and things like that, where people have just turned things around. They put the time and effort in. It's not a 5-minute job. But again, we're in this podcasting sector. We get it, Tyrell, don't we? We love it. A lot of people still don't look at podcasts as business medium or a lead generation or as a way of communicating and getting in touch with their customers. They just think it's this thing that people talk about, or it's Joe Rogan, or it's, you know, it's a comedy act. It's like, no,
Entertainment.
And it's entertainment. Yeah. Yeah. Whereas a friend of mine who's in the same group, he runs a B2B podcast service. So he creates podcasts for enterprise. I think he's about 60 people now. He's been going about 3 or 4 years. It's like, and that's a business. He's creating podcasts for enterprise customers. So yeah, I think again, it's still an untapped medium that people don't really get or spend a lot. You know, marketing teams don't spend as much time as they should do just researching it.
Do you see that changing over the next 5 years?
Definitely. If you look at the numbers and you look at the stats in terms of advertising on podcasts and the return, audience, and now YouTube are pushing, you know, that platform aggressively for podcasts to promote on and such. Yeah. There's going to be more awareness. And I think what it comes down to is marketeers can't see attribution rates or click-throughs and such from that side, because it's not a fixed, you know, there is no magic link on the podcast that you go, 25, you know, because the host, you have that data, not them. And then obviously there's the platforms that share it. But it's a real simple thing, isn't it? It's just like, I just want a shareable link to go in the description. So if the audience see it and it gets shared out, it gets a click. Right, great. There's your attribution. It's not rocket science.
Yeah. Well, I think there's, you know, especially here, even now, as we, you know, continue to grow our podcast and we, you know, talk to potential supporters and sponsors, they want to better understand the metrics that are behind the podcast. You know, how many, you know, and like, honestly, it doesn't matter. What matters is, can we reach your target, and can the target reach back out to you? And, you know, how much content we can put out in whatever time span. The numbers are what they are. What matters is, do you have a message that gets people to take action? So.
Yeah, exactly. And what we've always developed our platform and our agency and everything just around data, because like I say, I set up Big Data Week 10, 15 years ago. So it brought together 250,000 people, love data, events over a week, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, from that, what we've put together is, you've got the downloads and the listeners and that sort of thing. What marketeers should be looking at is what the social reach is and that multiplier effect. So our episode will go live, you'll share it, I'll share it. You know, what's that combined effect and that reach? And advertisers, marketeers, whoever it may be, podcasting is the only platform that you can specify and go, I want to speak to B2B SaaS owners that are focused on customer service, etc., because that's the audience that are listening to that podcast. And it's highly targeted. Mm-hmm. Website advertising through for whatever is highly targeted. Yeah, randomly. You know, it has a go at it. Whereas actually, if that's a podcast that's around B2B SaaS services in pizzas, that's the audience that's listening to it. Yeah. If you're not interested in that, you're not listening.
You're not going to listen to it. And honestly, it becomes a way to, you know, get a 30-minute meeting with somebody, or, you know, 45-minute meeting. Like, you don't normally get those opportunities.
No, exactly. And it's just the aspect of, you know, advertisers sort of get that, but marketeers need to understand, if you want to go after that audience, podcasting is the way to do it. Literally, you can specify it virtually down to an age group by the sort of podcast content that's being pushed out there. You don't need the downloads or listeners or whatever. That'll grow over time. You just look at that social reach around it as well. It's like, yep, sorted.
Yeah. And if you're, you know, for any podcasters out there, if you're doing it, I think what you just explained is the way to go. You have to have this kind of 360 approach to it, where you have your podcast and your platform, and then you have your social media angle where, you know, we're reaching folks on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and we're building, you know, on our own, building an email list, you know, to continuously, you know, stay in front of these folks. Like, hey, here's a reminder that we have an episode out. Also, here's some of the cool things that we picked up from our sponsors. Here's some value for you. So I think it all plays into it.
And also, we say this to clients, whoever, educational-wise, it's that aspect of can't judge a podcast by the number of episodes it's done. I'm a big sort of mantra about this. I get really annoyed. So it may be that a podcast is just released and it's had 10, 15 episodes. So it's over that bump and it's got regular. It's got 25 episodes. A lot of people go, 25 episodes. It seems a bit low and it won't have the audience. Well, what if that person has never done a podcast before, but actually has a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers, a Facebook audience of X that's highly targeted and engaged? It's like, so, pragmatically, you have to look at the audience you want to reach and look at it, like say, from 360. It's not all about the downloads and the listeners and that sort of thing. It's not about the episode numbers or reviews. It's about looking at that individual podcast show and going, wow, okay, that's an up-and-coming one. I need to be on that show. 25 episodes I can get on now, because once they get to hundreds or whatever, there's a 6-month waiting list and I'll never get on there. So yeah, we say, it's look at it from a marketing perspective and a sales perspective and the data. Don't be judgmental, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way.
I totally understand. What advice would you give? And I know that you primarily work with guests and, through your guesting services, but what advice would you give to podcasters for attracting the right guest that, helps grow your audience and helps grow your reach and adds value to your podcast?
Yeah, I think from a sort of podcast host side, anchors back to having a very clear positioning piece, whether it's on your website or in your hosted description of the type of guests that you're looking for around that, and having full clarity over it from that side. But also, like I say, it's just that aspect of having a really defined process of following on, having that relationship, asking the guest to promote out to say, you've been on the show and I'm looking for similar people around it. And once you've got those mechanisms going, guests will then, it makes it easier to go, yeah, this is about pizzerias, but in Tampa, and we're looking for business owners. It's like, right, okay, yeah, there's no point in approaching that one. Whereas if it's a very generic one, perfect. I suppose over time, because we've done this a lot and we've reached out a lot and we've spoke to podcast hosts and guests and done all that, all the clarity is in the detail and that definition and the process around that. Get that right, and you just have guests consistently coming through from it, because it's easy to find you from that side of things, and there's clarity there.
I love that, because I think, in the beginning, well, probably a little easier now, but in the beginning, discoverability was very hard for podcasters. Like, the people who knew you found you, but in order to, if you're not on the top charts list or, one of those things, it's very hard to become discovered. And we started to really, lean into SEO and optimizing there so that we could get better discovered on platforms or through, Google search or, now especially with YouTube, pushing podcasts a lot more. I think that has helped us. Is that something that you see making a huge difference, or is it just extra work for nothing?
Yeah, it's no, it does make a difference. It's funny because I had a call with an agency last week, and they have their own podcast in a very niche sector, but the owner wants to go on podcasts to promote that out. So they have their own podcast. And I was talking to him. He said, the biggest challenge I have is getting guests on. I'm like, I don't get it, because it's like, yeah, honestly, you booking me as a guest on podcast releases my time to then go and find guests and go and do that. And it's that discoverability component and really sort of working hard around that side and making yourself aware and from that aspect. And ironically enough, like we have 160 million episodes indexed with all the guest details and things like that. And I was saying to them, well, if you want guests, I can find guests. They're all indexed there. They may not be the right guests, though. That's the thing. But yeah, it is hard. And I think what you find as well, Terrell, is when you're a host and you just start off, the reason a lot of people stop and fail is they get to about 10 or 15 episodes. So they've done the pre-recordings, banked a load of them. And it's like, you think it's easy to get a guest on, but it's getting the right guest into it and being targeted to get the right people on. You can get your mates to come on, but it's not really a conversation for your audience.
Yeah, I started with my kids.
Yeah.
My first guest with my kids like 3 times.
Yeah. It's just like bring some people on, but it's on that process. And it is, like you say, it's just that awareness of, okay, I'm here, come and find me. because at any one time, there's about 900,000 podcast shows that are live that are releasing episodes across all the categories. It's a big list, isn't it? It's like, right, okay, how am I going to get discovered then as a host in all that sort of water of everything that's going on from it? So, yeah, people need to understand. It's like, well, it comes back to you're essentially, Tyrell, you're the pizzeria, aren't you? You're trying to attract that customer and that audience, those guests to come in through the door. How do you do that? It's using every marketing trick in the book that you can to try and get them through there.
Get it?
You also need to get the people that like pizza to come in, because if they're coming to get a Chinese takeaway, yeah, it's not the right place to be.
You're in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
I love it. You've given us some, just some real good insight and angles on what guesting means to the podcast community and what podcasting means to, just growing small business in general. How does someone who has started their journey or, has a business and wants to do more or be discovered or get on a podcast, how do they find you and follow up with your services and platform?
Yeah, so if you go to podcasthawk.com, I'll send you the links. Just reach out to me. If there's anything about podcasting and small businesses, I'm happy to talk for England, so you can book a meeting there. And just, you don't have to buy the service. If you're looking for some advice, I'll help anybody. Because again, I just want to spread the word about podcasting is just a brilliant channel but also it's life stories, isn't it? It's getting to hear people that have, been in different paths and saying to them, just come and share that. It's great. It makes us all happy. It makes us smile.
It sure does. It makes me smile. It makes me happy. I love otherwise I don't get the opportunity to meet people like yourself.
Yeah.
So this is great for me. Thank you.
And also what you tend to find now is, because I'm not in corporate, I'm not in a proper job or anything. So there's less chance to meet, I'll say, interesting people. I have my circle of friends, but it's less chance, like you said, to go. Whereas I find with podcasting, I get to share those experiences bi-directional, get to meet really interesting people like yourself. It's fantastic. Otherwise, I'm like, I've just been talking to the wall again for another couple of days.
That was me first 20 episodes, I promise. Just talking, no one listening, but everyone's listening now. And we certainly appreciate you taking time here to share with us and tell us about Podcast Hawk and about yourself and your interesting, journey from steel to software, to leadership, to software sales, to software development and beyond, and now even consulting and advising folks. So, thank you for that, because I think that's an important story to share, that, life gives you changes and sometimes you just got to roll with it. And, you're a testament to that. So thank you so much, Stuart. We'll drop all the links. Send me all the links that you want me to put in the description, and, we'll make sure we get that out to everyone. And thanks again for joining us. Okay. Before you go, one pizza question. You're in north of England, right? Your favorite pizzeria there?
So it's a local one. Oh, what's it called now? Jesus. Remus. Oh my God, I nearly forgot that. It's a local takeaway called Remus, and they do, how do I translate? I don't know if so basically, I call it a calzone chef, a calzone pizza, so a folded pizza.
Calzone, yeah. That's what we call it.
Yeah, calzone, but with kebab meat in. Oh my God, it's to die for.
Really?
So like doner kebab meat in a folded pizza with sauce on top. It's not very healthy, but it is absolute heaven. It's just amazing.
Oh yeah, we'll have to check them out and give them a shout out as well too.
Yeah, they're good guys. They look after me.
All right, maybe we'll get them to come on as a guest. I would love that.
That'd be awesome.
That would be really cool. But thanks again for your time. We'll I know it's getting into evening there, but have a great day. And please keep in contact. It was really good meeting you, and I would love to learn more. And send me any guests you want. I'll be happy to talk.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I'll do my best to find you some interest. Well, I've got some interesting people. I'm just thinking about them now. So.
Well, I do appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much.
Cool. Perfect. And thanks, Tyrell. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. If you've gotten any value out of this episode or any of our other episodes, I need you to do me a favor. Go leave us a review. Every review on Apple, every 5-star rating on Spotify helps this show find more operators just like you and helps them get that same value that you're taking away from this episode. And as a thank you, anytime somebody leaves a review, sends me a screenshot, just DM me a screenshot of your review, I'm going to send you a free gift, something awesome, something cool. I'll send you a gift, whoever leaves a review. That's the challenge. Go leave a review, DM me a screenshot of it, and then I'll get you something. I got you something special from your boy. Now let's get back into the episode. Peace.